Hello, and welcome to the first ever episode of the Sleep Deprived podcast. I'm your host, the Canadian, and here with me is the lovely Sunshine.
Hello.
As you can tell, we're super nervous, especially me. I'm a nervous little bitch. Can
You're
we
not
cuss on
a
this
little
podcast? I'm gonna say we can cuss on this podcast. I don't
We
care.
can cuss on this podcast.
Once we get the flow of it, once we figure out what we're doing, I'm sure we're gonna have a good time. But honestly, right now we're super nervous, especially me. Sunshine is obviously nervous as well, but she's a lot more collected than
I'm
me.
good at hiding my emotions.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not at all. We're just to break the ice. We just want to talk about random things like, how we got into gaming and just from there, all that cliche gaming stuff,
Cliche gaming stuff.
I mean, it's the first thing that you ask is when you meet somebody new who's a gamer as well as, oh, how'd you get into gaming? I feel like that's the most cliche question,
True.
but it's also probably one of the, depending on how you answer it, obviously, it's probably one of the most important questions as well, I think. But, most of the people are just me like, I've been playing video games for my entire life, let's be real. Come on. That's a lie.
Something prompted you to start gaming, or
Exactly.
not like we bought the consoles ourselves or whatever,
Unless I was hustling since the day I came out.
You were hustling on that lemonade stand and buying your 64 or something. That's fine. That's cool.
So what was going on that? I guess what was your first console?
My first console?
Yeah.
So yeah, my first console was a Nintendo 64.
I think that was the same as me. No, mine was the Super NES.
Oh, okay. How old are you?
Wait, a baby. I was born and it was in the house. So
okay,
I've been literally playing video games out the womb, But I don't think I really started getting into gaming until I was, I want to say 5. Well, I was 5, but when I started really getting into it, it was 6. I lived in a I lived in a house with another family. My grandfather remarried and brought in another family, and we were living with them at the time, and they had a bunch of consoles like the PlayStation, the NES, the N64, just a bunch of different consoles, and I think the GameCube came out just at the time that we all moved in together as well, so that was really fun for us. I was probably playing games that I shouldn't have been playing as a kid, though, which might be the reason I'm so fucked.
No.
That's a topic.
That's a topic for a different day.
Yeah, exactly. That's a topic for a different day. But I grew up playing just a bunch of different games, mainly fantasy games. I find we were playing a lot of Square Enix games, and I didn't really get into the games that I like now until 7. But I do remember playing Counter-Strike at 5, which is the game that I main nowadays.
Right.
But that's where kind of my mindset grew. It was a lot of fantasy games, Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy, all those games and stuff like that. Shadow of the Colossus was a big one. I think Kingdom Hearts had the biggest influence on me, though.
I think a lot of people in our age group, Kingdom Hearts was huge. It was huge for me too. It was one of the first games. I don't remember when Kingdom Hearts came out, but
I remember waiting 15 years for Kingdom Hearts 3. The worst wait of all time.
It was terrible, but
after Shenmue 3. Shenmue 3 was the worst.
Yeah, I remember watching the opening scene for Kingdom Hearts constantly.
Yeah.
I remember that specifically having a huge impact, as well as the game, of course, but
yeah,
definitely a very vivid gaming memory of mine involves Kingdom Hearts.
It's actually kind of embarrassing for me to say, just because of how much, and just because of I know how much it influenced me as a kid, because everything in my world revolved around Kingdom Hearts. And I remember, this is probably something that I shouldn't be saying. Well, I mean, it doesn't really matter, but when I was a kid, in during gym class, they'd let us go out and run in the field every now and then, and they had these I want to say batting sticks, and but they had these giant foam pads at the end of it, and they were kind of I guess they were used to obviously bat, balls without destroying a kid's face
Oh,
made out of wood.
that makes sense.
So I remember it's just funny because I remember growing up, me and my friends would go out and we would sword fight with them, which obviously we weren't supposed to be doing. But I remember I would always have two, and I would swing my sword around like I was Sora, like in the double sword phase, and like I would say all of his quotes. You
Oh my
know how
god.
he would. So it was always embarrassing for me, and I always remember just kind of being that weird kid that whole God and anime on my side kid.
That was you?
That was me, and it was quite embarrassing. But honestly, uh, I'm still ashamed of it.
Shame, dude. No shame.
I mean, like maybe to a sense because like, well, I mean, I don't do it anymore. I don't think.
I think
I
if you did
hope.
it now, it would be a little,
Yeah, but
unless you're at a
like,
con, then it's totally acceptable to do that. Or if you're acting a fool on stream. Actually, people make careers out of being weird now, so
I mean, look
really
at
no
us.
shame. I mean,
But yeah, like that was that Kingdom Hearts. I'd say has probably the biggest influence on me as a kid, outside of Counter Strike, and then when I got a big boy computer for myself, and that's how actually I got into Counter Strike in the first place. Was my parents. My stepdad was dating my mom at the time, and to get me off their backs, my dad would just shoo me away and go play video games.
Mm.
And I guess I started playing Counter Strike. I was playing a racing game. There's been a lot of games that I got into as a kid, but I stopped. There's a reason why I don't play racing games anymore besides Mario Kart, because I feel like that's just kind of like you have to play that. It's one of those
True.
must games. Like going back on it, like I don't play racing games anymore because I have a traumatic experience with racing games. Um, I remember because my dad, he lived in a dorm with a bunch of guys. There was this one Xbox game. It came like if you bought the Xbox, it came with two games. It came with like one of those like double-sided CDs, which I wish they still had those nowadays instead of
yeah.
like that was just kind of meta. Like it was super cool. But it was like it was Racing GT or something like that, and then it came with Jet Set Future on the other side. And I remember apparently these races would last super long, like hours on end. And my dad and his friend, like his roommates, they'd race, and when one guy had to go pee, they'd switch out and stuff like that. So it took them like months apparently to get every single car in the game. And I
Wow.
remember, like an idiot, I decided to play that game, but me as a kid, I didn't know how to read. I deleted that file. And my dad has never forgiven me ever since, and he has never played a racing game ever. And that
Oh shit.
that is why I will never play a racing game ever again. It's just I think I've
Dude,
just developed too much trauma from it.
that's a lot of trauma. That's a lot of guilt to
Like
carry on your
it's
shoulders.
like freaking like
Oh
19 years
no.
later, I still feel that regret. Like it
Wow.
hurts.
Ah, that sucks.
Yeah. So that's why I will never play a racing game. But
Okay.
fantasy always will have a place in my heart, just because I get to be who I want to be. Skyrim was a big one for me as
Mm.
well. Now that I think about it, hell, I even downloaded it like a month ago, and I'm still playing it.
Mm.
Have you ever finished Skyrim?
I have not, which is very weird for me because obviously I am the same. I love fantasy, but I think for whatever reason, like Skyrim just like came at a time where I was really busy and again, I don't know when Skyrim came out, but like in college I didn't have time to play games ever because I was full-time student, full-time server trying to pay my way through school. So like I didn't have time for games. So whatever games came out around that time, I just haven't had, I don't know, I just haven't done it, but I think I should because it's right up my alley.
Going back on consoles, what do you think about the PS4 and PS5? No, PS5 versus Xbox.
I'm gonna warn you, I know shit about consoles. So
I
this is
I
not
don't
this is
either.
not a good,
So it's obvious that you're not going to get any of the consoles.
no,
No?
at all. I'm PC all the way. So I don't want to speak on
Here at Nocturnal,
consoles.
we're very smart individuals. We get PCs. Not that I'm ragging on PS5 or Xbox people or anything like that, but you're wrong.
No, 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 no. See, I disagree. I think there's too much hate between PS4, Xbox, Nintendo, PC.
Why can't we
Like,
just unite and be
well, it's
gamers?
true. Like, everybody games in their own way,
Hmm.
and certain things have their advantages, and some people prefer the price points, and some people prefer. There's a lot of reasons that some people would choose one or the other, whether or not it's grounded or not, whatever. But regardless, we should all stop attacking each other for our choices in games.
Gaming console. I feel like that's a big thing. It's just like the whole debate over which console is better, or anything which better, like Mac or PC, or like Samsung versus
Well,
iPhone. Hey, I have a Mac too. Don't harp on me. All
we did
right.
not bring Mac in this discussion.
All right. All
Now
right.
bring
Fine.
Apple.
Fine. Fine. What about
Dude,
iPhone?
to be fair though, I was playing WoW on a MacBook in college. Somehow it worked.
I played Fortnite on a Mac. I remember it was in college and Fortnite just came out and everyone was playing it. The person next to me was playing Fortnite on his Mac, and I was like, because we were in a boring ass English class, and me, a designer, I'm not gonna take English. I'm sorry. I know you're a writer.
Better be careful.
But I decided to download in the middle of class, and I crashed. I crashed the class because everything was lagging out after that. So the presentation was dying, which was hilarious because then after that I was playing Fortnite on it. The frames, however, were trash.
I imagine.
I got like 10 frames on it, which was hella good. That's what you'd be experiencing on console anyway.
I thought we were hating.
I will always hate no matter what. No, I'm kidding. I love every console.
Look, if you want to go back to some fond memories about how I got into gaming,
Yeah.
my dad was the one who got me to gaming, hands down. He bought me every single like handheld and console from Nintendo 64 on.
Which was your first handheld?
Game Boy Color, I think. I more remember the Advance.
Yeah,
but I
the little
believe I
box
did
one.
have a color. Yes, bro, I love my Advance. Always on that shit.
That was my
and then
first.
Was it the SP, the one that flips?
Yeah, that's the one. That was my first
Yeah.
ever handheld.
Okay, I had that too, and I had the DS and 3DS, and
Damn.
but yeah, my dad and we had an Xbox, and I used to live with my mom, and then I moved in with my dad when I was 14. So my whole teenage years, it was just me and my dad. So, it was a good time. I got into gaming huge when I was in high school. I was always like a gamer, but high school was when I was playing WoW like
Were
10
you
hours a day.
now with that? Were you a low key gamer, or were like in school everyone knew you as a gamer?
No. Actually, nobody knew.
So you're pretty low key.
I was very low key. I was kind of embarrassed about it. I grew up in a really small town and where it was like cool to have cows. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, it was cool if you could show a pig at the county fair. Like, gamers were not cool, and there were probably like 5 people in my school who actually played games. So I definitely kept it to myself.
Yeah.
Except for like Xbox was like kind of okay, like Rock Band.
Yeah, because like everyone had a console back then.
Yeah, like that wasn't so big. But to be playing like World of Warcraft was like you were a fucking nerd if you were playing WoW.
I never actually got it. I never got into World of Warcraft.
I'm so glad I did, because otherwise I wouldn't be married.
That's cute. That's how you guys met?
You didn't know that?
I did not. I've been meaning to ask how you guys met, but that's literally adorable. I know another couple that met through WoW.
Yeah, it happens pretty frequently. Yeah, I met him when I was 16.
Oh.
Well, I actually met his girlfriend at the time.
Oh. Okay.
So,
awkward.
I mean, yeah, it ended up being very awkward. It's a very long story. Story for another time. But yeah, so we met in high school, and he was in college actually at the time. He was a little too old for me at the time. But I knew him for years, and then we reconnected when I was in college, when I was 19. And then yeah, we've been together ever since. So we've
That's
been together
adorable.
almost 8 years now.
That's literally so cute.
I know, it's pretty cute. So
Yeah.
little nerd love. Have you ever seen Pure Ownage?
I feel like I recognize that, but I don't think I have.
It's a super old YouTube channel. It's a Canadian guy, actually. You should watch it. But it's super like OG YouTube, and there's a song. I don't even want to say.
Do it.
It's basically like a love song
Yeah.
about two people like falling in love on WoW and
Well,
how
that's
great WoW
adorable.
is, and it's supposed to be funny, but every time I hear it, I'm just like, oh,
Yeah, for
that's just
me,
my life.
it's crazy how that works though. Not works, but like it's crazy how relationships can build up like that. Like I'd say like I would say I don't even have friends in real life. Like I hate everybody. But like I have more friends that I feel like you and like again everyone in Nocturnal, I feel I have a stronger connection with most of my family. And it's just crazy to see how like how far relationships have gone through gaming. And
Yeah,
it's a platform that, older people don't understand, but for us it's just like it's something that I think came at a really good time.
sure.
Like we're a super lucky generation, I think, and it's amazing to see how far gaming has come outside of, building relationships, making literal careers. It's crazy, like again, I've made so many fond memories playing video games,
Mhm.
competing in esports. I played CS:GO on a team for a little bit. I've been in several content groups before Nocturnal, so it's really cool to see. And like I've made some of my best friends are from gaming. Like one of my friends, Julian. I used to play back when I was a kid. I couldn't afford Minecraft, so it was one of those things that there was a cracked service that you would go in and you would get a cracked account,
Mm.
and there'd be like this chat bot, and I was looking for a server, and I met him through that, and we've been friends for years. And I remember being in middle school, and to see him now, like he has a kid, he's married, he's got a good
Mm.
job. It's like we used to be just a bunch of dumb kids, and now I get to see these people grow just through the internet. Like it's completely wild. And I've met so many crazy wacky characters through gaming.
Absolutely.
And to see them evolve into relationships like that. Like I don't want to say officiated a wedding, because it was more of a meme, but I kind of officiated a wedding on Destiny. So it was like kind of like WoW. So it was funny because like they actually are married now, and
Mhm.
they're still married. I was like the non-official one, but that's where all of our friends got together on Destiny, and we got them married and stuff like that. But then they got an official wedding, which I don't approve of because I should have been the one to officiate it. But like, yeah, it's crazy to see, and like to see how far gaming has gone. And really like it's still hard to explain to people though how far it's gone. You know, I think that's the biggest thing, is that people just don't seem to understand what gaming is all about and don't understand the culture behind it. Especially when it comes to content creation and esports. I find like there's kind of a lack of respect still. I find now, like it's getting a lot better, especially with the rise of streamers like Ninja and all those other popular streamers. But it's still hard to explain to your parents what this is all about.
Right.
And I mean, I'm glad that it's improving, to see that they're starting to gain a little bit more respect in the community from older generations. Especially now that like celebrities and stuff are getting into it, and like
Mhm.
buying teams and stuff like that. Like I'm trying to think of like older celebrities that bought into it. Shaquille O'Neal, I think, was like one of the first investors in esports. I think when he bought NRG. It's
Well, of course,
crazy to see.
the US Army has an esports team.
Right? Yeah, they do. I forgot about that.
Mhm. Which is you could go into the military and play games at, like, conventions and stuff, like, I
Whoops.
mean
Yeah, to be sponsored is literally insane by the
Mhm.
U.S. Army. But I think they're slowing down on that. I don't
Well,
remember.
yeah,
I read an article.
there was an issue with, like, free speech, so,
Yeah.
people are watching a stream that's run by the government, essentially the
Hmm.
US Army, and, they're censoring people saying people are trolls, like, they're acting like dicks
Oh,
and
right. Yeah.
saying really offensive stuff, but in turn, they're being moderated and censored, so it's like, well, you can't really do that. You're a government entity. You have
Right.
to if this is a government like platform essentially. Like you have to give people the right to free speech, so you can't moderate. So I imagine I haven't read up on it as of late, but I know that
I mean,
I
that's
can
fair.
imagine
Like,
that's no, it makes sense. It does.
mhm.
But also it's like, well, people are just gonna go and
No matter what, people are
spam
always gonna
bullshit.
be. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So is it worth it for them to stream and do that sort of thing? I don't know.
I still think it is. Like, I still think Twitch should also understand that, some things shouldn't be asked, and the moderation is like up to them, and it's their standards. So I feel like, with any chat, like you should be able to have any right to, I wouldn't say censor, but moderate however you feel. Like,
But when you're
obviously,
talking about a government entity, I think the story changes
right?
because, you know,
Yeah. At that point, maybe they should make their own platform.
right.
What would the Twitch of the U.S. Army be,
I don't know, but
and would it be successful?
no, it would not.
I mean, the U.S. Army is also investing in esports as well, aren't they? Like, outside of making their own teams, like
I
I
believe
think the
so.
Air Force, U.S. Air Force, literally sponsored Cloud9.
I imagine that all of the branches are doing it.
I wonder what that
Because
what.
they understand that, it's a draw for young people,
Hmm.
and also so my husband is a software engineer, and he's told me that, a lot of times for the field that he works in, they look for people who have gaming experience because their understanding of, like, UIs and, like, how to create, like,
A
intuitive
functional one.
controls and things like that, especially when you're dealing with, like, aircraft and that sort of thing,
Hmm.
it's actually super valuable, so, like, people who have played these like flight simulator games and like military games and there's some value there now, and so I think the military is not only capitalizing on those skills but also like knowing that, hey, if we get involved in esports and these things that these young kids love, they're more likely to you know
Obviously, WoW is probably one of the answers for you, but
mm.
what were some games that like really had a major impact on you?
Oh, there's so many.
Like
Majora's
the
Mask
biggest
was
game,
Majora's Mask was huge for me.
really?
Yeah, there was something about the story and the music and just the like dark overtones that come with Majora's Mask that I don't know, man, it did something to me, and I don't know if I can explain the impact, but Majora's Mask is definitely one. I think Dragon Age, I know that's a little later, but Dragon Age had a big impact on me as far as like my love for fantasy.
Hmm.
I'm a big, I'm an aspiring fantasy writer. I read and swallow whole fantasy novels all the time. Like big fantasy nerd. I'm into storytelling. So those kind of games like Dragon Age are huge for me. Um, gosh, and and lately I'm thinking of some modern examples too that have had a huge impact on me. Celeste being one of them. Have you played Celeste?
Uh, is it kind of like a Metroidvania kind of game?
I mean, it's a platformer. It's like
I feel
an
like
8-bit
I've
type.
seen a lot of it. Like I've seen a lot of, like, every time I've seen Celeste, I think of like kind of like, I think of like very bright pastelish colors.
Yeah, you're not. I think you're
Okay,
thinking of
yeah.
the right thing.
I haven't
So
played it yet, but I plan on it. That's one of those games
it's
that I've been kind of put on my list.
it's one of those games that's like such a good example of like creating like a beautiful narrative and like
Hmm.
using imagery to convey a message and like something that on the surface is so simple because I mean it's an 8-bit game.
Hmm.
But it's a beautiful game, and it goes into like themes of anxiety and depression and mental illness, and it's just like I think that's something that I actually had a conversation with some people like 2 weeks ago where they were telling me that like video games can't have the same impact as like books or movies, and I'm
Which
like,
is like so
which
false.
no, it is so false. And in fact, I've found that there are tons of games that have had more of an impact on me than any book or any movie could. Like Celeste is one of them. Like
Hmm.
I have a problem with anxiety. And so like a lot of people nowadays. But there's this part of the game that there's a feather and
Hmm.
you have to breathe and balance the feather to bring the character that you're playing back into focus while she's having a panic attack. And ever since I played that game, like sometimes when I'm trying to like calm myself down, I think of that feather. And
It'll bring you back.
yeah, and there's like, obviously I've read amazing books that have had impact on me, but that's something that
Yeah.
has stuck with me ever since I played that game.
Yeah. I can't say that there's been any games that like have affected me on that. And I mean, maybe when I think of a game that can affect me that way, that where it hits me emotionally, I think CS. But mostly those emotions are just rage. And but yeah, like I don't think there's any game that really kind of hit me. I feel like there have been there have been several games where I've cried. The Walking Dead one, I think that one everyone cried towards
Yeah,
the
I
ending,
beat
the
it.
first season. Not the
Yep.
first season, but the first series of that. That hit me hard, but it's like obviously anything really character driven, I think will like I've
Mhm.
automatically liked.
Sure.
Kingdom Hearts was just kind of one of those only games that I really feel like affected my like how I am. Like I treat like as cheesy as Kingdom Hearts was, it had a very good way of showing how to appreciate your friends and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah,
Um
I definitely agree with that.
and I think that's just kind of why I try to treat everyone as my family. It's just because like again, like I see I don't know how to explain it, but like that's just kind of like from some of my core values is again cheesy as it is from Kingdom Hearts. One game that I've been really that I really love to go back to all the time is Hollow Knight.
Oh, Hollow Knight's
I
beautiful. I
feel like
haven't
that's
personally
such a
played it.
I feel like it's such an underrated game, but like at the same time has been played by a lot of like like hardcore gamers. Like I feel like a
Yeah,
good amount have
speedrunners
played
and
it.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like
But
speedrunners like
that's one of those games that I really enjoyed.
Mhm.
Um Actually I think some games that I think that I have played have really kind of swallowed like because I don't read a lot, like I've read I think I can clear say that I've only read one series of a book in my life, and it
Mm,
was Percy Jackson,
mm.
and that was it. I never read anything. I don't think I've ever read a whole series other than that. I hated Harry Potter as a kid. I'm
Right.
sorry, Harry Potter fans. I'm
You
sorry,
know,
but I'm
I
not
I
sorry.
I know people. My husband's that way. He said he tried to get into Harry Potter. I
I
wasn't
can't.
allowed to read Harry Potter,
What?
bro.
I mean,
My
it's
my
good
dad
because
no, my dad bought it for me, and my mom,
damn.
my mom was like, top level
Yeah.
Christian, and she was
Oh
like, "It's
right.
witchcraft, you
Yeah.
can't read it." So I ended up actually have never finished Harry Potter. I had to read them in secret. Um, but I never actually finished reading the books.
Yeah.
But yeah, my husband doesn't he couldn't get into them
Yeah,
either.
for me it was like I never got swallowed into a book, but I got swallowed into a lot of games. And for me, I'd say the series that swallowed me into their like the story was Dark Souls the most. Like
That's funny because Dark Souls, the story is so hidden.
yeah, exactly. Like it forces you to go and look for every detail.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it so much is that you're not like if you're not invested in it, you won't know what's going on.
It's not being told to you outright.
Exactly. Right. But like everything
There's
is there.
probably
All the details are
yeah.
there. And
There's some level of immersion that you have to,
exactly.
you
And
know.
for me it's like that's where like that's for where I got into like storytelling YouTubers and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Not the hey guys, story time. No, not those YouTubers, but like Vadi Vidya, Oxhorn, like they talk about lore all the time, and that's where like
Mm.
I just get sucked into those videos. And it's I wouldn't say it's a guilty pleasure, but like when I go to bed, I'll play either Vadi Vidya or Oxhorn when I go to bed.
Mhm.
They're like my
Wow,
parents.
that's really cool.
And it's like those are some of the few games that I'd say that I got really swallowed into in terms of like story.
Mhm.
And I feel like it's one of the worst ones to get into because again, it just doesn't tell you in the game. You have to look for it. So one, you have to play one of the most infuriating games ever while you're looking for the story. But it like once you get into it, like the story that's being told is so like it's so detailed and so
Mhm.
beautiful. Um and it's crazy because with Dark Souls, there's so many influences from it that are just all over the place. From like Japanese movies to like English literature and stuff like that, and it's so cool to see just the different inspirations and stuff like that from any game with a narrative, really.
Yeah.
And honestly, like Sekiro, I was probably the one that I got sucked into the most, I find, just because it was a shorter game, and I love Japanese culture, obviously, just, look at me. But it's one of those games that I got super sucked into, and like I think like I stood up for like 36 hours playing Sekiro, trying to find details of the lore and stuff like that. Although it's a lot less hidden than Dark Souls is, which I don't know why I stayed so long, but probably just because I loved the game so much, which is why it won Game of the Year. It deserved it.
Yeah.
But like, are there any games that like that you'd say were worth losing sleep over?
There's so many. Gosh, I mean, WoW certainly was for me.
Yeah, obviously with
all-
the whole husband thing too, that can
every single Zelda game. At least
really.
Breath of the Wild was huge for me. I got into Breath of the Wild. I think I took like 2 days off work. Play Breath of the Wild, which I didn't get a lot of sick time, but I was like, this is worth it to me to use these 2 days of vacation so I can play Breath of the Wild. Yeah.
I feel super ashamed to say that I think I've only ever beaten 2 Zelda games.
Which ones?
I beat Twilight Princess, and I beat the Minish Cap. I never finished Ocarina of Time.
Oh, you're breaking my heart. You're not going to sleep tonight. You're gonna go play Ocarina of Time. No
I don't have an N64.
You emulators,
oh, right, it's on the DS. It's on the DS as well.
It's also on the DS, but like emulators, you can install Dolphin and play Ocarina of Time, no problem, for free. No excuses, boy.
I think I've played like an hour of Majora's Mask, and it was me just getting lost.
Majora's Mask is a lot more. It's not linear. Like, I mean, it has a linear track, but like there's so much side stuff you can be doing, and of course time.
Like for me, the reason why I didn't beat or play much of Majora's Mask is because I'm dumb, and I honestly didn't know what to do, and then I'd take too long, and the moon would crash on me.
To be fair, I was playing Majora's Mask when I was like 7, and I didn't get very far in it.
I played it when I was like 12.
Look, those games are hard. Like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, like they're kind of hard, especially like the Water Temple in Ocarina of Time. I don't know if you got that far.
Yeah, I stopped at the Shadow Temple. So the reason why I didn't finish Ocarina of Time is because I'm a pussy. I get scared at the smallest things, and like when I got down to the Shadow Temple, like I would shit myself at the smallest sound, and I was like, okay, I'm not playing this anymore. Like I'm done.
Spooky. It's spooky.
So that's why I never finished Ocarina of Time. So I feel like I have a valid point for not finishing for Ocarina. Majora's Mask is just because I'm dumb.
Look, Majora's Mask was hard. Like you're not dumb.
Okay, I'm glad. But Twilight Princess is like, I feel like that was when I grew a pair. Also, it wasn't as scary. I don't think there was anything scary.
I mean,
the only thing that I was like a little bit like about was the whole scene where like Link has white eyes. That was a little spooky to me. But other than that, like that game, like I finished, and like I obviously I'm gonna say that one was my favorite because it was one of the 2 that I beat. But like I feel like that one was a lot of fun just because of how complex the combat was. I feel like I enjoyed the combat of that. Using the Wiimotes was fun, even though a lot of people hated the Wiimotes.
I liked it when I played, but I played it right when it came out.
Yeah,
I liked it. But
like everyone I know would prefer using a GameCube controller. I would always use the Wiimote.
I don't know that I would prefer using the Wiimotes, but
for me it was that like everyone like I would play Mario Kart with, they would be like, I'm using a controller. Me, I was just using it as a steering wheel. I loved it. I would whoop everyone's ass using it as a steering wheel.
To each their own.
But like
Twilight Princess wasn't my favorite. It's mainly because of all the Wolf Link stuff.
I loved it.
I didn't like. See, I wasn't into that part. So
actually, no, the Wolf Links. Like now that I think about it, it was tedious. But like at the time, wolves were my favorite animals. So like.
So you're at the.
Maybe that's why is because I was on all aspects except physical. I'm a wolf.
And some people, they didn't like Skyward Sword either, and I loved Skyward Sword.
I feel like that one's the most hated. Like I haven't played that one. I feel like Twilight Princess is where I stopped playing Zelda because that's when I got into PC gaming. But like Skyward Sword was
There's
it.
a lot of hate. I don't. I guess I kind of know why,
Yeah,
but
maybe it was just because it
I
was written differently. I don't know. But I feel like the ones that are most praised, like the Zeldas that I know of that are the most praised, I feel like the newest one is like I feel like
Breath
I've
of the
heard
Wild.
Breath of the Wild is like I've heard about the most. And then Ocarina of Time is just like the classic that you can never deny.
It's true. Personally, I prefer Majora's Mask to Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
That's a very unpopular opinion, but that's how I feel. And
You just
also,
got to be different, don't you?
it probably helps that I played it first, but even as an
Mhm.
adult now, I still think like I don't know. I just think the themes are deeper, and it's just like
Yeah.
a more beautiful game. And there's some aspects of it that, man, I won't go into it. But
Yeah.
um, honestly, I think that Breath of the Wild is probably objectively the best Zelda game.
I'll have to get
Nos-
into it. I've been thinking about buying it
Nostalgia,
lately, but I don't know.
it's very good. The only thing missing in Breath of the Wild, I think, is the music aspect,
Yeah,
which, you
that's
know,
huge.
and I agree, like, it would have been great if that was in it.
Yeah.
And also the combat, like the swords break, whatever your weapons are, they break over time, which I hated that too. But just from a level of like the feelings that it gave me, the immersion that I felt when I was playing that game, like I do think that Breath of the Wild, if you're not thinking of nostalgia, you're not thinking of classics, I think it's objectively
Gameplay
the best
wise is
Zelda
probably the best one.
game.
Yeah. It's
Yep.
crazy it's crazy to think though how much music can impact a game though too, or just anything, like
Oh,
a movie or a game.
back to
Like it's
Celeste, actually, as
it's
far
got a
as
beautiful
music.
soundtrack.
It has a beautiful soundtrack, and also they use music to convey themes.
Oh.
So, for example, there's this level, it's like a mirror temple,
Hmm.
and there's this music that plays all through one part of it, and then when you go to the other side where the like through the mirrors kind of,
Hmm.
the music reverses. And I didn't notice it when I was playing it, but I ended up like reading about it and like, oh shit, that's so cool.
Yeah,
And like they use music to convey the main character's feelings and her anxiety and her happiness, and it's like woven into the game.
I
Like
love that.
it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Second time I brought that game up. I'm an advocate for this game.
I'm
I
I'm
love
a
it.
I'm an advocate for Kingdom Hearts because I'd say that's probably like my favorite game for any kind of musical score. Like
Mm.
I feel like the Roxas's theme and stuff like that. Like holy shit! Like I remember as a kid, like I don't play piano anymore, but like that was
Mhm.
one of the few piano songs that I learned because I loved it
Nice.
so much. And like Kingdom Hearts is just theme in general is beautiful. But
Yeah.
and I remember there was one time like playing Kingdom Hearts 3, it was like the only highlight in the game, but also the shortest part in the game, which pissed me off, was when Roxas joins you, like when Roxas like comes back to life and joins you.
I
And
see.
like
I didn't even know that because I didn't finish the game, and
it's
I
well,
was
I'm telling you now so you can get to that point. But like Roxas comes back and like all three characters join battle and like their themes combine. And it's like literally the
oh,
most beautiful like song I've ever heard because it's like you're putting all the themes of these characters that I've loved like over the years as a kid together, and it's like the most beautiful like epic sounding theme ever. And I was like, holy shit!
that's cool.
And so that was big for me. And then I'd say another game that really influenced me that I never mentioned but also has beautiful soundtrack is Monster Hunter.
Interesting.
That's probably why I don't play the Wii anymore, is because I killed my Wii playing Monster Hunter every single day.
Wow.
I
I
remember
couldn't
that.
get into Monster Hunter, but I know people that are just
Yeah. For me, it's
obsessed.
just one of those things that like I love like detail and art. So like games like Monster Hunter, Kingdom Hearts, like I love to look at their style. Like Kingdom
Mhm.
Hearts for me was like the clothing and the keyblades, like those were really cool. And
Very
then
iconic.
Monster Hunter was like the design of the monsters, the armor, the weapons. So it's
Mhm.
like I think that's why I have such an infatuation for skins in CS. It's just because I love the design aspect of it and love to see the details that are put into everything. Um and that like I just like I love kind of fantasy look to it too. So that's why like
Mhm.
Monster Hunter is so huge for me. It's just because there's so many different armors that look so cool. Like, it's dumb because I'm one of those aesthetic players. Like, I will not wear this armor that will benefit me because it looks ugly, but I will wear this cool armor because it looks cool.
Bro, whenever transmog came out with WoW, it was like one of the greatest things that ever happened to me. I was like,
I wanted to download that for Monster Hunter World so bad, but I was like so worried that downloading that mod would get me VAC banned and then I wouldn't be able to play Monster Hunter. But I know so
yeah.
many people that do it. I'm just too much of a pussy to do it. And now I feel like the transmog got ruined because every time I look at Monster Hunter World on like Nexus mods, it's all like skimpy armor. And I'm like, oh my God. It's like, why? It's like, oh yeah, you can incise your character's tits by tenfold. You're like, what? Why?
Skyrim has mods like that too.
I know they do. It's like, I remember it's a story. I remember I was playing Skyrim with my dad came into my room one day and I was changing the armor and I didn't know this mod that I downloaded, but it made like all characters look better because, you know, Skyrim, like all the characters look ugly, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I had this mod that made everyone look better. And I remember I was taking off this female's armor just so I can give her better armor, but then it made her completely nude. And my dad's like, so that's what you're into, huh? And I'm like, fuck.
They always walk in at the worst time.
I know. So it's like it was super embarrassing for that to happen. But again, it was just like, oops. It's like, I swear, I didn't know the mod did that, Dad. Relax. I feel like
need to play that game. I need to.
it's one of those games that's just like, it's kind of like Minecraft, where it's like, I feel like playing Minecraft, you know?
Yeah.
It's one of those games that I wouldn't say infinite playability, but like it's got replayability. Like I've finished Skyrim once, but I've always like found myself re-downloading it and then playing it a little bit more. And then like restarting the game completely and then just like changing a different life. It's one of those games that's just, it's got replayability, but not, I wouldn't say infinite, because infinite means you can just like play it every day and be completely fine. But yeah, it's one of those games that I can just like, I'll get into a mood and I'll play even 10 years later. You know, Minecraft is the same way. I'm trying to think of other games that have that kind of replayability besides like, you know, games like that are like multiplayer. Like Counter-Strike is like, I feel like Counter-Strike is one of those as well, but I wouldn't put it in that kind of category just because
not
it's
as
a
broad
multiplayer
anymore. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's different with multiplayer.
Yeah.
Gosh, I mean, Minecraft is the best example. I always find myself like every couple of years now, not
Getting
even
into
that.
a binge.
I'm just like, man, I want to play some fucking Minecraft, and then
I've
I build
been
half a
thinking about
castle,
it.
and then I'm done.
Yeah. Like
So
it's just really one of those games. But, you know, like again, going on Counter-Strike, I think it is one of those replayability games, but like again, it's just a different kind of category just because it's online. But I think it's one of those games that will, like, there are very few games that I think that will never die, and I think Counter-Strike is just one of them.
I mean, as long as the esports scene is still alive with
Which
Counter-Strike.
I mean, it seems to be getting better and better every day. Like tournaments, like, you know, for a game that's like older than me, the scene is just getting bigger and bigger. I'm wondering if though, like if contracts like for esports like that are ever going to be like upwards of like, you know, the levels of like a traditional sports player. Like
That's a good
like
question.
like I wonder if contracts are going to get to the point where it's like FIFA level.
I mean, it all depends on the money that's going in. That's at the end of the day, that's what it is.
It's probably one of the fastest growing markets in the world. Like, you know, for an industry that's like relatively young, like it's already a multi-billion-dollar industry, which is insane to think. For something like that to grow so quickly. I mean, gaming and technology are probably one of the fastest growing cultures in the world, I think.
It's only going to get bigger, especially now with everything that's been happening.
Everything relying on technology nowadays anyway.
You know, people are realizing that you can do a lot of things that you enjoy online.
Yeah.
And
like,
I see it. I mean, I see it getting bigger than sports eventually. I don't know if it'll be in a decade or, you know, but there's a lot of reasons that sports, like traditional sports, might not be as big anymore. I think, like football, for example, there's like tons of injury and people are getting hurt all the time.
A lot of people getting the brain damage.
Yeah, like that kind of stuff. Like, okay, I can put my son in football and he can possibly get brain injuries, or I can encourage him to pursue esports, which is just as respected. Eventually, I think it will be. And
Hmm.
there's no damage except for maybe like carpal tunnel and like eye strain. But,
Mental strain as well.
sure, but that's like with anything, but
Yeah, true.
it's it's not brain damage. It's not
Right.
knocking your head against a helmet
Unless, of
every
course,
day.
you rage and then you just.
Well, that's calm down, people.
That's when you need a specialist. But so you see a world where contracts can get up towards of like FIFA stars.
Certainly. I don't see why not. Again, it has to do with the money that's going in.
Hmm.
Because I
It's
mean,
insane
personally,
to think how much like soccer players will make, though.
I I've got my own opinions on that sort of thing.
I think it's ridiculous, obviously, but like but I'm just a nerd who sits on his gaming computer and plays video games, so I
But
might
like
not.
your skills, I mean, like it's entertainment at the end of the day. People
Hmm.
enjoy watching games just like they watch football. It's an entertainment thing.
Hmm.
There are hours and hours and hours of skill and practice that go into learning to master a game.
Hmm.
I mean, somebody who's played hours and hours of games and still sucks. Like, I
Me.
mean, yeah, like a lot of people. And I remember hearing an interview a while ago, like it was years ago, but somebody was saying, "Oh, this CS player, he only played 10 hours a day for a year and he's this good." Only
Yeah.
10 hours a day. It's like that's just as respectable to put in that kind of time and master a game to a level that you're a freaking god. Just because it's your hands and your mind and your hand-eye coordination versus
There's a
using your
lot that
body.
goes into any esports.
Yeah.
Like, like there's so many micro adjustments that are being made that it's all muscle memory, and it's
Mhm.
like again, I feel like there's just such a lack of respect for it and lack of understanding. But I feel like the respect will come once people understand.
Sure, and
But
gamers certainly
obviously,
understand,
yeah,
like
obviously it's harder to educate a generation that hasn't had that in their life or understand. But I feel like once they, oh fuck, this sounds so bad. Once they die out, or once they start to get educated more or start to understand it more, like I feel like it'll be such a big market that it could eventually take over, traditional sports, which is it's an exciting thought for me, just because again, like esports and gaming have been around for me for like almost my entire life.
mhm.
It started to develop around the time that I was a kid. So it's pretty insane to think how far it's gone in just a short amount of time.
What I wonder is, like, the statistics on how much of the population watches traditional sports versus how much at least even don't anymore. Like, not necessarily that
Yeah.
they watch esports instead, but, like, is there less of an interest in, football Sundays, football Monday night, like,
Yeah.
soccer, whatever? I wonder how that's changing with, like, our generation.
Well, I think there was a statistic that was in I gotta make sure to do some fact checking next time. But like,
We could fact check now.
yeah, like I think there was one point, I think it was like 2016, where it was like the Worlds for League of Legends that overtook the NBA Finals,
Shocking.
which that's pretty insane to
Mhm.
think. Like soon those numbers might beat a larger sport like, NFL or FIFA. Like it's crazy to think that those numbers might reach a massive number like that as well.
Mm.
And I mean, it is already kind of reaching that number where like a full stadium in Germany can be filled up to watch a match of CS, which
Absolutely.
that's literally insane. Like watching Cologne, like ESL Cologne is like one of my favorite tournaments to watch in Counter Strike. And just like I don't know, it's just crazy to see, especially to hear the crowd.
Yeah.
Like that is like one of the coolest things to hear, in my opinion. Like it might not, like for people, it might seem weird. Just like my favorite part is the crowd when I'm watching a CS:GO tournament. It's like, yeah, this player might have dropped an ace out of nowhere, but like to hear the crowd cheer him on, like that's wild, and
Yeah.
it's just
They're
so.
I mean, they're athletes. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, in Korea, like StarCraft is huge. They're celebrities. They're treated like
Yeah. Well,
Tom
League of
Brady
Legends, I
when you
think,
go over
is
there.
taken. I think League of Legends beat
I
StarCraft
mean,
now.
probably.
Yeah.
Again, I don't follow either of those, but I just know that Korea is definitely in the realm where esports is
Yeah. Now,
like
what do you think about calling them athletes though? Like, do you agree with calling them athletes?
yeah, I would. At the end of the day, your brain is physical, your hands are physical, your eyes are physical. I don't see why you can't call somebody an athlete in that
Yeah.
respect.
Like I feel like
If you're gonna call it esports, which it's what
yeah.
it's called, then
hmm
they're athletes because it's a sport.
Yeah, I feel like the term athlete like transcends past just physical sport. Like
I think so too. I don't really know where to draw that line,
mhm.
but I think anything competitive in that sort, like where you have rounds and matches,
Mhm.
I mean,
So in this sense, what do you think about calling a chess player an athlete? Do you think that
see, that's where I'm like,
they
but
are competing, they're using their hands and they're
they
using
are
their
competing, they're using their hands, they're using their minds. I don't know. I feel like I would need to think about that.
I feel like calling them an athlete is okay.
I mean, I would lean toward
To call somebody a rock paper scissors champion though and an athlete is that's where you're passing my line. Cuz
yeah, I that that is a really interesting question.
I've seen some wacky stuff
Maybe we
on
should
YouTube.
come back with some research and discuss this further.
What do you guys think? Leave in the comments down below what you think. I've seen some wacky stuff though, like in terms of competitions on YouTube. Like I think my favorite ones to watch are slap contests. there's this Russian series on YouTube where it's just like these like a bunch of guys will just stand there and just like slap the shit out of each other and see which one gets knocked out first kind of thing, or see who had the hardest slap. And like there are some like these are Russian guys, so it's like some of them are like fucking huge, like bears. Like I think one of them actually wrestled bears. I wouldn't be surprised. But
Well,
like these guys, like some of these guys are freaking massive. Like their hands like the size of a fucking watermelon. Like you're dead. And it's like it's funny because like it's so crazy to watch those things because I feel like there's like there actually is no weight class. Like I remember watching this big freaking like 250-pound guy go up against like a 180-pound guy, and like you it's scary to see that the 180 guy can actually hold his own and slap decently against the big guy. Like you gotta have some balls for that.
it sounds like you went down a real rabbit hole.
it's just it's one of those things. Like there's this YouTuber Critical, or I feel like everyone's heard of him, but like if you like once you hear his name you'll know him, or like hear his voice, sorry, you'll know who he is. But like I feel like everyone has at least seen one video from him. But like he'll watch these wacky videos, which I actually want to show you a video which we will have to do for a separate video. Is some cooking stuff. He'll get into some really wacky things, and every time I watch it, I always get sucked into that rabbit hole. So one of those rabbit holes was the really bad cooking videos, and then also the Russian slapping contests. And then another
Wow.
rabbit hole that I get myself into is is like those Indonesian guys building pools. Have you not seen those?
No.
They're
You're really
we're gonna get you educated on YouTube. It's one of those memes that when you can't sleep, you'll find yourself on that weird side of YouTube where these guys are just building pools in the forest.
I used to watch this guy called Primitive Technology, where he just
I think
it's
that's the same thing.
he says nothing. He
Uh-huh.
never speaks. He's always wearing the same shorts,
Yeah.
and he just builds like huts
Yeah.
and bricks and kilns
That's
and stuff.
yeah,
And I don't know,
that's one of the channels that I'm talking about. I'm pretty sure that's it. But like there's other channels like
intoxicating.
there's just a bunch of different channels. Like I think they're all based in Indonesia or some Asian country. But like they all just build weird things like that are like why? Like a bunch of them
Why
are
not?
pools, a bunch of them are like underground like temples kind of thing with a pool inside. And it's just like it's crazy to see, but at the same time like I'm trying to think like somewhere in the world there's a forest with just a shit ton of pools everywhere. And it's just like one of those things that, again, it's like one of those weird rabbit holes that you find in YouTube, the weird side of YouTube. But I wouldn't say that's weird because it's pretty epic. I love to get into those videos just to watch. And it also makes me feel like it is kind of like, it makes me sad though to watch them because sometimes I just feel like I'm fat. These guys are working their asses off just to entertain me. And I'm just sitting here watching them, eating my bag of chips, trying to go to bed.
Feel that.
Anyway, I think we should wrap it up around here. We're hitting that hour mark around there. What do you think of the first episode?
It's good. I think we a little scuffed, but
Oh, it's no matter what, if I'm involved, it's always going to be scuffed. No matter what. Like scuffed is
no,
my middle name at this point.
hell yeah. No, I had fun though. It was good.
Yeah.
Um, what what do you think we will talk about next time?
Honestly, I feel like just the way that it's going, like we'll just talk about whatever comes to mind at this point regarding gaming and
Sure.
somehow spiraling down into pools being made in Indonesia. But honestly, I'm super excited to continue the series. We're hopefully planning on doing it bi-weekly. So let us know what you guys think in the comments or wherever down below. We're super excited for the next one and hope to see you later.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.